So good morning. My name is Khalid Al-Tawil. I am the Senior Coordinator of the Food System Coordination Hub. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this event co-organized between the Food Systems Hub and AGRA. This event is organized as part of our efforts to support National Food System Convenors, where they are doing a lot of efforts to transform food systems in Africa. Yesterday, we have listened to the Prime Minister of Rwanda, to several ministers from different African countries, telling the stories they are doing, the efforts they are making to transform food systems. Unfortunately, the situation in Africa how climate change is affecting African food systems, decreasing yields, leading to a vicious circle of hunger and malnutrition, even when the continent is contributing much less to greenhouse gas emissions compared to other places. So today we have a side event that is organized about the role of national conveners. Africa is giving a very good example when it comes to national conveners efforts in transforming food systems. The continent has nominated 49 national conveners. National pathways are more advanced with very ambitious plans. But as one of the speakers said yesterday, it is not about having the plan, but about implementing it. So today we discuss with national convener what is needed for them to be able to achieve this very challenging task of transforming food systems. From the Food Systems Hub, we are doing, it is called actually the Coordination Hub, which means that we are working with other UN agencies, other stakeholders to support national food system conveners to transform food systems. So we are working closely with FAO, WFP, IFAD, but also with UNEP, UNDP, and other organizations. One of the recent initiatives launched by the Hub is the Convergence Initiative. And the Convergence Initiative was launched in COP28 in the United Arab Emirates. The main objective is to help connect the two tracks, two systems of food systems and the climate action. It is built also on the Emirates Declaration on Sustainable Food Systems, on the Secretary General call to action, who asked for African countries and all countries to make sure that when we design our national policies, we are keeping into consideration and putting at the center our food systems and the climate action. Now we are starting the implementation at the national level. We have identified several countries and we are starting actually national workshop implementation next month. We would like to go to COP29 in Azerbaijan in Baku and show some success stories, and Africa will be at the center of this. We have few African countries that we are in touch with them, would like to at least implement the national level conversion action plan in Africa before COP29 and then follow up leading to COP30 by implementing at least 5 African countries. So this is something that we will discuss also today during the side event. Without further delay, I would like to ask the Assistant Director General of FAO to give us his welcoming remarks. Please, sir.
Thank you, Khalid. Good morning to you all. I'm very pleased to join you this morning. I think this is a very important meeting. Now, I think we need to start from the obvious, that food and agriculture in Africa often lack the policy and political focus they deserve. I'm not talking about the pronouncements, the declarations, and so on, but in terms of action and results, because that's what we gauge. I don't want to go into the numbers. So when we talk about agri-food systems transformation, we should take this as a golden opportunity. It's not just a priority, it is an opportunity we must seize. And secondly, there is this disconnect between the real needs on the ground and the current policy and investment priorities. On the other hand, food system platforms also in this regard can help reposition these agendas strategically. And this is a moment we cannot afford to miss. So let's not take agri-food systems transformation agenda lightly. It's a very strategic, it's very important. And of course, leadership commitment beyond words is very important. Leadership at all levels, especially at the highest government echelons, is crucial. But commitment must go beyond rhetoric. It needs to be backed by concrete actions and investments. Political pronouncements matter, of course, but the real game changer is sustained support and investment for implementation. Because the stakes cannot be higher, and according to some estimates, as you know, to achieve zero hunger in Africa, annual investments of between 28.5 and 36.6 billion US dollars are needed. So it's a huge stake in this. So when we look at the role of the strategic role of national conveners, we have to bring all this into account, because national conveners must be viewed within the broader context of strategic leadership. Different countries have adopted different models, and this is natural in putting in place a national convener architecture, offering available lessons for continuous improvement and knowledge sharing among the different countries. I think this is very important. We also know that Africa embarks on its post-Malabo strategy towards agri-food systems transformation. It is essential that national conveners play an active role in shaping this roadmap, because the agenda is the same. We also know that numerous initiatives are being launched by different partners in the countries, and these efforts must be coordinated to strengthen national pathways, avoiding parallel processes that could undermine the efforts. And in this respect, this meeting is an opportunity to address critical questions. Some of these questions include, for example, are national conveners truly part of the national leadership architecture of agri-food systems transformation? Or are they relegated to marginal coordination roles despite their crucial convening responsibilities? I think we need to address these kind of difficult questions. FAO's support for agri-food systems transformation is grounded in 4 principles, to summarize, and 3 principles. One is country-led and country-owned solutions. I think this is very important. The second is inclusive stakeholder representation. And the third is building on existing policies. And fourth is strengthening national institutional capacities. I think these are very important. And when you talk of ownership, the true ownership of the agri-food system transformation lies with the very people whose lives and livelihoods are impacted. And we must create and sustain conditions that foster genuine collaboration and partnership. I think this is very important. So agri-food systems are inherently synergetic spanning sectors like trade, industry, energy, infrastructure, science, technology, health, the environment, among others. They provide an excellent platform for meaningful collaboration. The agenda is a unifying agenda. National conveners must be therefore strategically positioned and supported to leverage intersectoral collaboration and multi-sectoral coordination and drive impactful engagement. National food systems pathways are central to FAO's collaboration with countries and partners. And therefore, FAO is committed to supporting the efforts of countries towards transformation to a more efficient, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems to achieve better production, better nutrition, a better environment, and a better life, leaving no one behind. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Abebe, and thanks again for the FAO continuous support to agri-food system transformation, to national conveners. In fact, the Food Systems Hub actually depend on the existence of FAO, WFP, and the IFAD on the ground to support national food system conveners. And as Abebe said, it is a challenging task how to make sure that these effective structures are really working together in a synergetic way, contributing to food system transformation and taking into consideration the complexity of food system. Before I go to my colleagues, Martin, to set the stage, but I would like first to invite the co-organizer of this event, AGRA, Mr. Boaz Kizer, who is the head of policy and food systems at AGRA, to provide opening remarks. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings from the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA. And on behalf of Dr. Agnes Kalibata, I would like to express our gratitude and our appreciation of being part of this agenda. And just give you a recap of why we take this work, and especially the role of national conveners, extremely very seriously. First of it is personal to me. Personal because several years ago, I was appointed to be the CADAP focal point. If you're identified as a focal point of a thematic issue in a country, you have a big responsibility to take it forward. And I must also say, by the way, before I even continue, it's a huge challenge for me to come immediately after a person who has mentored your brain, Dr. Bebe. He was my supervisor several years ago. And the structure, the style of my behavior is all drawn from his insights. So when I was listening to him speak, I was wondering whether I would not risk repeating your comments, or whether you would actually not think that those are your ideas that you imparted in me. But in any case, I own them now, and that's your success. But just continue with the points I wanted to raise here, again, to appreciate that the role of national conveners is extremely very important, because you are the front line, you are the leaders, you are the champions in a country to advance a complex idea, but simplified at a country level when we talk about food systems. We are all transitioning from understanding what agricultural transformation means to agri-food system transformation. And I think different stakeholders, if we learn lessons from 2021, the Food Systems Summit period, and all the dialogue, I think the outcome was that food systems encompasses broader things than just agri-transformation. And the role of national conveners is to make sure that you are cultivating that idea in the national system, including your leaders as well as other stakeholders. It's not an easy job. And really it is something that is very critical that, again, we convene such meetings to continue sharing ideas and views on how we can be able to take up this particular function. The second big challenge is about the multi-stakeholderness, I think Abebe was talking about it, of the food system itself. Ideally, when agriculture transformation is housed and domiciled and led by the ministries of agriculture, things have changed. The Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Infrastructure, and Ministry of Finance are so critical. So bringing institutions, ministries, private sector actors together is not a mean job. When the UN Secretary General issued out to countries to identify and appoint national conveners. I think Ministries of Finance, Ministry of Foreign Affairs struggled. The word was food and systems. So to some, it immediately went to agriculture, because that's where food is produced for people to consume. To some other governments, they knew that this is a multi-sector issue. They appointed some of the national conveners in the institution that oversee other cross ministries. My best example is Ghana, where you have it in the National Planning Commission, meaning that you bring different sectors together. Then others sent it to ministries of planning, using finance as an instrument to bring coordination together. I think the attempt was good, but for me, what I take as part of this discussion is how we come together to begin to discuss what are the issues that we are facing at the country level. Especially, and Dr. Bebe mentioned this, that next year we'll be seeing a transition of food moving from Malabo to another declaration for the next phase of, the next 10 years of phase of CADAP, of which is going to be announcing the transition from ag to food systems. What does it mean for the national conveners? What are the powers, what are the instruments that you have to be able to drive the mandate that you've been given? What are the roles, what is the resources that you are giving? What is the respect that your governments are giving you and support to be able to run that role? I think we need to tackle these issues openly and rightly so that we can be able to find solutions. But I think as an organization with AGRA, we, under the leadership and guidance of the African Union, NEPAD, and Martin will be talking about this later, we really try to support and work with countries to strengthen this particular role, building and strengthening the technical capacities so that we are able to deliver that function better and stronger, such that governments show up in a strong way to lead and drive the vision that have been mandated to them so that the private sector can grow, jobs can be created, and the whole agri-food systems grows. I thank you for being with us today, and I wish you the best of the discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boaz, and again, we thank you so much for the support during the organization of this side event and during the organization of the African food system. In general, we are very proud of the collaboration and partnership between the Hub and the AGRA. Martin, I will keep you waiting for a minute or two because I would like just to invite Sir David Nabarro. He's here in the room, and many of the national conveners have worked closely with him. Even from the time of the Food System Summit, he is one person that I believe understand this complexity of food systems and the role of national conveners more than anyone else, and he accepted to give us 2 minutes quick message intervention. David.
Thank you. First of all, how lovely it is to be here. 15 conveners have been invited. I believe that most are here. And you know, the best thing for me is to just see how many of the conveners that started working in 2020 and 2021 are still doing the work. I can look at you and look into your eyes, and I can feel the pride that you have in your work. And Dr. Abebe said, it's just such a tricky job, and you're doing it, and you keep going. Thank you. Thank you. Looking over there, looking here. Thank you very much indeed. This is important because the conveners are really pushing forward the agenda together with the rest of the governments and then other stakeholders, and are showing just how transformation is done in practice. So without more ado, I wish you well. Thank you all for coming so early in the morning. Have a lovely time.
Thank you, David. Good morning to everyone, and nice to see you, many of you, as David is saying. Many of you, we do engage, we do sometimes have engaged on email, and today we get to see the person behind the email. But of course, as actually my colleague Khaled mentioned, this is a journey, as actually David is saying also. We do appreciate that a lot of the things we are actually doing is part of a very long journey. And I'm talking about change, and things have to evolve over time. So when we do meetings like this one, it's very much appreciated within the context of a broader agenda that we are looking at. in the context of food systems transformation. And I think there has been a lot of discussions increasingly on appreciating what do we mean by transformation. And again, that is a very key issue that we have to underline all the time, because we need results, we need change. And it's not just changing in what the outcomes are, because we're not going to get different outcomes doing the same things. It's also changing in the way we do business. And actually that transformation is about changing how we do things to get the results that we need in the manner that they are inclusive, they are impactful, they are sustainable, and actually building the resilience of our societies to meet the basic human needs, livelihood needs, and indeed sustain our environment and the natural systems. So what I'm going to do now is actually a very, very brief presentation, and brief in the sense that this meeting and my colleagues that have spoken earlier than me have alluded to the fact that we actually, as the hub, as FAO, as AGRA, are here to listen, are here to learn from you, so that in this conversation, we can then best understand how we position ourselves to accompany you on this very important task that you have to do. Actually, you would see, in fact, in the discussion questions, we'll bring back, because Dr. Bebe made the question he presented is very crystal clear in terms of what are we looking at in the form, in the functionality, in the legitimacy, in the authority of the national convener to actually lift this heavy weight that has to be lifted. And actually, we are clear in our minds that the quality of the national conveners is going to be critical in leveraging all the capabilities that are existing and actually making the transformation happen. And that's why we hope that we continually put energy, effort, highlighting the value, the importance, and the need for absolute necessary capacity at the functionality of the national convener in this way. And that conversation is very much in that direction. So in terms of the presentation, and what I'm saying here is that let's be ready to talk. We will listen. We want to hear from you and indeed learn how we can best be of value to support you lift that weight. So I'll go to the presentation now and actually look at the one thing is actually, yes, sorry. Yeah, one thing is to appreciate the journey that we are making. So when you look at why food systems, and we want to continue to keep this at the back of our minds, because it's not an obvious, it's not just a by the way, because this why food systems has to continue to be the rationale, the incentive, the drive, the inspiration to wake up in the morning and say, I have to do this. Because we know this why food systems goes to the core of, actually I want to use the word sustaining ourselves, but it's more than just living. It's actually living in a prosperous environment as people, but with our natural resource as healthy as ourselves and the system going. Today now you also have the measurement about happiness is actually all the way to that in terms of people. So when you say why food systems, this is not just about to grow more good crops, to grow more good diet crops. It's actually ultimately about the livelihoods of the people in every way you look at it. So this is why when you say we want to deal with the issue of why food systems now, is also to underline the fact that over decades, and I'm talking about Africa, 4 or 5 decades now, we have actually done a lot. Even when you talk about financing, there's massive amounts of resources, money, etc., poured into what you may call agriculture transformation, food security work, and all that. But we do know that what we are getting in terms of results can definitely be better than where we are. And we need to do more. But in doing more, we have realized that it's not just doing more of the same thing, And that's why food system is about what should and what are we going to do differently, actually as an imperative, because without that, then there will be we'll get the same results we've got in the last 5-6 decades. And those results are not good. Actually, we heard from Khaled in the presentation there. And this is why one of the critical realization increasingly, and this is not coming like suddenly, is that we need to leverage the capabilities across sectors. This is a result in terms of a transformation that cannot be achieved by one sector, one industry, one company, one partner, and actually in coming together to achieve our individual purposes, we have to also deliberately recognize what is our contribution to the greater good. And this is why the discussion, and I want to say, as national conveners, this is a conversation we need to continue to push, to facilitate, to engage, so that there is even the appreciation and growing of a critical mass of public opinion in pushing for why food systems. So when you look at that, and I want to say that in that narrative is also the onus is on us in this room to actually tell the evolution of these narratives. And I start just here quickly on the summit, but there's a lot of things that has happened before the 2021 summit. Actually in Africa, you know that there was a Kadap Malabo, and when you look at the 7 commitments that were done in Kadap Malabo in 2014, they actually very well, without mentioning it or calling it a name, reflect food systems approach. Because those 7 commitments about hunger, about trade, about environment, climate, it was actually clearly across different sectors that the continent identified as levers to deliver on agriculture transformation. So it's already there. But in the last 2-3 years, we have done from the summit. The summit was about 2 things. One was to appreciate what are the issues, challenges, opportunities at country level. This came into how are we going to do that? So the summit, prior summit, was to go and engage broadly at country level to get what are the priorities and through dialogues and conversation with all stakeholders. The second thing you remember in that letter from the Deputy SG was to actually nominate national conveners. And I'm going to come back to this because there was actually a clear specific request, one, to do the dialogues, and the dialogue was to find consultation broader than we've ever done. And this was to go and speak to people, to constituencies, to interest groups that we normally don't even engage, the food vendors, the restaurants, the transporters, and all those kind of people at different levels, including very informal sector systems. And that was going to be done through a central energy point, which was nominate a national convener. So we went through that into the summit. The summit itself came up with, of course, on the continent level, we had the Africa Common Position, which kind of aggregated what was the continent saying. But the countries themselves then developed and agreed on their own pathways, which you can say was an expression of ambition of what needed to be done. And actually in both the Africa Common Position on food systems and the pathways, there was always an inclination towards how are we going to do this? Because the countries were saying, we know the what, and we are actually convinced about the what. Where we are struggling is how do we actually just get it done? And done in the manner that it's systemic, it's about a capacity, it's not a one-off thing, and it is about how we actually do things, and you're achieving results that are resilient, built in the system, and sustainable. So that was good, and sorry for the color there, you can see the other part. But the national dialogues and the summit there delivered the Africa Common Position, delivered the agreements on the pathways, and also, I'm sure you agree that one of the outcomes there was then the setting up of the UN Food Systems Coordination Hub. And what does that mean? That meant that the summit appreciated that we needed something that was going not just to do food system, but to organize the doing of food systems. And I want to underline the word organizing. I could use the word coordinate, but it's about how do you connect these pieces in the manner that is a win-win for everybody to deliver bigger than any one individual can deliver. So the hub has been part of the outcomes to go out and actually get the work done, and done systemically, systematically, as a capacity issue. So then what we are saying is that in doing that, there has to be the element of how do we connect? We have to have where to start. And that's why the convergence actually begins to be the issue. Where do we start? And when we do that, we're looking at some of the pressing issues in terms of the minds of people. So it's agri-food, and I combine that, of course, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about there, and then climate. But at the center of that, and we keep saying, is actually people. It's about livelihoods, it's about incomes, it's about access to health, access to education, and all that. But therefore, then the whole issue, different this time, is actually how do we leverage the capabilities of all these players, and there are many players out there. And the fact that there are many is not the problem. The problem is how do we connect their capabilities, their interests, to deliver their own interests, but also connecting to the greater good. So this is why that the whole issue, and we know that this is not going to happen automatically, because there are many, many things that are actually set up. Maybe I wouldn't say exactly counter that, but they are not encouraging that. And those are things natural in our systems, in our structures, institutions, in our policies. And therefore, how do we deal with that? Also appreciating that we may not be able to actually change the structures just now, but how do we deliver more and better? Yes, please, next. So then the issue, as actually Abepe was saying, is that we have an opportunity in terms of the national conveners. And one of the conversations we are having and want to continue to have is that the appointment of the national convener is no longer a UN issue. And that's where it starts. It's actually how the countries would embrace this functionality and actually make it their own and make use of it within the national systems. And I think many of you, we've engaged on that indirectly, directly, but that's one of the core issues, because this is no longer about what the UN had asked for in that letter, but it's about how, as countries, as regions, we plan, we want to go forward with this execution. And therefore, it's recognized very well that the national conveners are a central pillar in championing national transformation. This we heard from the area statements. And you see that what we're trying to have in terms of a conversation is defining the unique value, because again, we can't go out there just convincing them that we are important as a national convener. In fact, we do that by just showing our value and seeing the results of our work in terms of the value addition. It's about positioning national conveners within the broader landscape. This is the question Dr. Bebe was asking. Are national convener truly part of the leadership structures and systems, formally actually speaking? And those are things we need to examine, and if there are issues there, how do we deal with them? Because without that, then we may not move forward. So then there's offering insights and perspectives on the country experiences, and therefore actually national conveners, are we positioning ourselves to actually make a difference? Yes, next one. Yeah, next again. So what we want to deal with in the coming half an hour or so, and we would ask actually, if possible, everyone to intervene and actually share along these two questions. These are questions we sent to you already. You may have something prepared, but please be concise, straight to the point, so that we can get as many, if not everybody, sharing and intervening. So the issue is what best positions, what do we have in the national convener that gives us the leverage that we have the strength as and the opportunity as national conveners, as lead focal point in championing food systems in our countries? Are we actually able, when we claim that we are the pillar, what is in it in that functionality that gives us and makes us believe that we are very well positioned to champion as the focal point of the transformation of the food systems? What aspects would you say needs to change, adjusted or strengthened? And then the second discussion will be about the agri-food climate livelihood nexus comes at the core of the food systems transformation. So within your specific country context, how is this actually functioning? How is it working? And what is making it work if it's working? What is blocking it to work? And therefore, then how do we actually work together to change or to adjust, to reinforce, to adapt these systems to serve our purpose today, tomorrow, and forever? So this is what we're going to do in the next half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. And as I said, we want to hear from you. And I want also to underline that the conversation doesn't end here, but we want to hear as much as possible from every one of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Martin, for setting the stage. Without further delay, as he mentioned, we will focus first on the first question, which means what best positioned food system national conveners, what need to be changed, what kind of support is needed in order for you to be able to fulfill your objective of helping the transformation of food systems. So, floor is open. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Nene Bajalo from Sierra Leone. I am the National Sun Coordinator for Sierra Leone Scaling Up Nutrition, and we have been formed since 14 years ago, and we are at the Office of the Vice President. And the Scaling Up Nutrition is in many of the countries that are here today, including Ghana and everywhere. And it was placed purposely in the Office of the Vice President or the Presidency to make sure that when you are coordinating the activities of nutrition and food and ending hunger, there is a platform in the highest office where nobody can block you from reaching His Excellency the Vice President or the President if you have an issue for nutrition. And I'm sure my other coordinators here are aware that that has done great for us. Because the most difficult, and I'm also the national curator for scaling up for food systems. When we were mandated to do the dialogues, we had the political lead who was appointed by His Excellency the Vice President. And that was what was done in every country to show that the national convenors are put at the highest point. Presently, our national coordinator and the one before is the Minister of State for the Office of the Vice President. And I happen to be the technical lead who is the national coordinator for scaling up nutrition and also the national curator for food systems. So we are the ones who did the dialogues. The Sun team, Secretariat, did the dialogues all over the country, nationally and subnationally. And we are also able to bring people together, including the donors. FAO was the lead, as usual. Everybody knows everything, food, hunger, and ending hunger has to be FAO. So it is a very interesting thing that when I came to two of the sessions yesterday, I was with some of my colleagues who are in agriculture and doing things that do not know that their countries have a scaling up nutrition secretariat that is placed in a position where they were talking about difficulties of bringing health and energy and agriculture and other ministries together to do a multi-sector. But the biggest achievement we have had are one, that we are placed in a position where the Vice President, the Minister of State, who is the convener, will write a letter on behalf of the Vice President and invite all the ministers of all the departments that have to do with ending hunger and malnutrition. And we have about 11 or 12 of those. And all of you know that it has to be multi-sectorial. They have to come because it's coming, the invitation is coming from above. But when the Minister of Health or Minister of Environment or Minister of Energy calls, the possibilities that they will never, some of them will never show up because there is that kind of thing that who is the boss here. So the position of where the National Food Convenor is placed is very important. And in our case, our president's flagship has been this next 5 years, Feed Saloon, which brings together all agriculture and all the other ministries that Scaling Up Nutrition is working with the Food System Convenor. And that has done very well for us. And he has always also created the presidential initiative for climate change, for food system, for food security, as well as energy, sustainable energy in the country. So there is a chairperson that we have representatives in this room here that has people that are working on those. So if you bring those three together, major ones that will end hunger and malnutrition in your country, your food system is going to work. So I just wanted to say this morning that if any country has a Scaling Up Nutrition secretariat that does not know, and all of us are in the office of the president or VP office, there is an advantage. You can use those people. Even if you are the convener in another department, you can work with them to make sure that your agenda is achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This is very key, and this is something we also heard in Addis when we had our regional meeting. Political commitment, especially when it comes from the highest office, is crucial for the transformation of food systems. Again, also working with the Sun movement, the hub is also trying as much as we can to harmonize our work at the national level, working closely with the Sun movement and national conveners. Thank you. Okay. First here and then.
Je me nomme Dr Djibril Bagaro et je suis du Mali. Servir le renforcement du système alimentaire durable et résilient dans mon pays, qui fait partie des pays confrontés à des crises prolongées, face à des chocs de stress immenses. Moi, j'ai vu grandir ce mouvement parce qu'on parlait du système alimentaire depuis 2017 à Abidjan. Ça a été renforcé par David Navarro en 2019. Et de fait, avec le son, on a gagné en confiance, en appropriation. Et ensemble, nous avons fait des moments très, très difficiles pour aller à la compréhension d'un système alimentaire qui dépasse le seul cadre de la production. Et c'était très important pour que les coordinateurs puissent donner le contenu opératoire du système alimentaire avant qu'on ne puisse bénéficier de l'appui de la FAO. En particulier ces dernières années où la rareté des ressources humaines et surtout financières est criable. Les conséquences immédiates de la pandémie, les crises climatiques croissantes, les guerres, les conflits horribles menaçant une grande partie des progrès que nous avons réalisés dans mon pays en matière de système de renforcement du système est mis en cause. Mais ce qui m'inspire de plus, c'est la réponse de mes plus hautes autorités. Hier, on avait des ministres ici et on a eu quand même une écoute attentive de toutes les autorités au Mali pour la transformation du système, malgré que le contexte est très... Le secteur privé, les jeunes, les organisations de la société civile et même les réseaux fêtières des agriculteurs. C'est une force, un courage et une volonté extraordinaire qui pourra nous permettre de poursuivre ces rêves et pour mettre fin à toutes les formes de malnutrition et à toutes les formes de souffrance, pour faire actuellement de ces droits constitutionnels, parce que notre nouvelle constitution fait du droit à l'alimentation un élément du droit constitutionnel. J'aimerais surtout venir ici. Pour moi, qu'est-ce que le plus grand défi qui atteint les coordinateurs? C'est de penser différemment, mais convaincre les autres d'agir différemment. En premier lieu, les membres du gouvernement. Parce que ça fait 50 ans que nous travaillons de manière sectorielle Aujourd'hui, on doit travailler de manière multisectorielle. Et de fait, dans ces cas-ci, il faut avoir des compétences exceptionnelles de négociation à la recherche de consensus. Cela veut dire que pour moi, l'ancrage institutionnel est très important. Mais cette capacité des coordinateurs de pouvoir négocier avec les secteurs, parce qu'il ne sera pas acteur de mise en œuvre, mais il poussera les gens à faire ce qu'ils doivent faire en fonction de leurs responsabilités. Cela veut dire qu'il y a deux points. Les capacités des coordinateurs d'abord. Avoir cette compétence exceptionnelle des négociateurs à la recherche de consensus et l'ancrage institutionnel haut. Parce que ça facilite d'ouvrir des portes. Bon. Et la qualité des hommes aussi fera la différence. Parce que c'est important pour que tu sois humble dans ce travail. Parce que quand vous parlez avec des ministres qui ont des mandats légaux, il faut être humble parce qu'il y aura beaucoup d'entre eux qui ne comprennent pas votre façon de faire. Voici des questions que je mets à votre disposition pour voir comment nous pouvons aider l'ensemble des coordinateurs nationaux pour que cette vision du fait qu'on peut donner ces droits à l'alimentation adéquate à l'ensemble de la population malienne et à l'ensemble de l'Afrique. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. And again, 2 points that I think are very crucial in what you mentioned, going beyond production, multi-sectoral approach, and also enhancing the capacities of national conveners to be able to negotiate and advocate for the food system approach transformation at the national level. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
Alan Ocheng. I do food process planning for the government of Uganda. I work with the National Planning Authority. Now, from the basics, GDP per capita is very much contributed by agri-food systems. You know, yes, we have education and training skills that are very important that ultimately lead to GDP growth of a country. So agri-food systems are very important from that aspect. Now, stakeholder engagement is very key. Yes, those of us that are involved in natural resources and environment, agriculture production, nutrition, and food processing all play a critical role. But beyond that, we need to know that the globe is evolving and Africa is following the rest of the world. Key aspects that we need to take into consideration as national conveners is urbanization and industrialization. Because trust me, if a country discovers minerals such as gold or petroleum deposits, would they give agriculture priority? The average country would prioritize industrialization. And these are very much linked to climate change and the greening that we are always talking about. So for me, the first major point is, as national conveners, we have to broaden the stakeholder engagement. Because even when you look at it, as countries continue to grow and urbanize, that continues to put pressure on agri-food systems, which are very much linked to. So next time, even in a conversation room in your countries, we need to see the stakeholders in urbanization, industrialization, agreeing to our agenda. That is very, very important. Then my second point is we must strengthen monitoring and evaluation. That is, as national conveners, that is very important because decision making is based on evidence. So many African countries have a silo approach that we suffer from. The CSOs, civil society, have their own data, government has their own data, the donors have their own data. But once we have an integrated monitoring and evaluation system, where we have strategic plans and we say, what are our joint outcomes? What do we want to have as interventions in agri-food systems? Beyond that, what are our outputs and what are our measurable indicators? We can be able to see the resilience and sustainability that we are looking about. So as national conveners, that is also something that we critically need to see because that will help us with that will help us with decision making. I mean, artificial intelligence is here. We cannot run away. People say, oh, it's making people lazy, we can't think, but that is the era. We are in industry 4. So we have to take advantage of such new technologies and see how we integrate this. And that can strengthen our monitoring and evaluation and help us with predictive modeling and taking the right decisions to be able to transform our agri-food systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Two crucial points. First, make sure that your structures are inclusive, broaden your stakeholder engagement to make sure that we are not missing any point of view. And second, monitoring and evaluation. This is something that's really crucial. We cannot make sure that we are going in the right direction unless we monitor and evaluate our action for decision making. So next speaker, okay, first here and then on the other side, please.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mulugeta from Ethiopia. The Ethiopian situation is a bit unique. We have 2 conveners who were assigned by the Deputy Prime Minister. The convener is the Ministry of Agriculture, and the co-convener is Ministry of Health. Then, with the help of them, we have developed our Ethiopian food system transformation pathway with 24 game-changing solutions that encompass on food, nutrition, climate, livelihood, even urbanization. Now we have upgraded that convener's task to Inter-Ministerial Food System and Nutrition Council, where there are 40 ministries, and 1 commission come to that ministerial committee, where they see the issues of food system and nutrition. Those days we have done a country diagnostics, where the country stands in terms of food system transformation, and now we are developing our indicators for food system. We have already developed that one, and we already aligned with CADAP, with the 10-year plan of our agricultural plans, with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. So I think we are in a good position to implement smoothly the food system. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing the progress for Ethiopian food system transformation. Okay, here and then Madam. Go ahead. Okay.
Thank you, sir. My name is Masia Johani from Lesotho. Luckily, I've been in this game of food system since the year 2021, when Secretary General made a call for all the countries to transform their food system. I will not take long, but let me go straight to the question where you are saying, where can we adjust and make sure that we have functional food system champions in the country? But I will not leave this important point. Lesotho, as a country, is celebrating its 200 years, and the last month of August was named as a food system month, where there was celebration of all food system activities. I think we on behalf of the country, we want to acknowledge and thank FAO, because the Director General of FAO was there in the country, Director General of WFP, and even for all these other organizations. But to answer the question specifically, the work of food system involves a lot of advocacy. But that becomes a very critical challenge when we have change of governments. When you have a new government coming in, and somebody has to, I think, preach that gospel of food system. Let's remember at the beginning, to understand even what does the food system entails, it was a very difficult task, because food system starts from the fork up to the table, and all those activities that are involved there are a bit demanding and to see the outcome becomes a challenging. But for some of the countries, they concentrated, like us as Lesotho, we concentrated more on the production. And believe me, we had an outcome where we had private sector, the government, joining hands to address the issues of relating to production. But it became more challenging when we brought in the element of climate change. Because let's remember, for climate change, there are already established bodies that for a long period of time, they have their own traditions, they have their own systems, they have their own way of doing things and addressing things as far as climate change is concerned. So hence, the hub has to deal more directly with the governance structure because there are already well-established bodies within climate change. And let's remember the phenomenon of food system was rather new coming into space. And hence, if we can concentrate more on the functioning structures of the country to be able to bring all these other bodies together, like trade and even the industrial portion together, it can make it a little bit work. But I have also to have consistency and stability in food system. I think we need to establish a similar structure like you have at the UN hub, whereby you have consistency and stability. Let's remember, you may have somebody, I'm lucky that I'm still within food system, but people come and go. And if in those countries we don't have established structure and a governance structure, we will not see implementation very soon. But passing from the structures and the governance, in most countries, in most of the countries that at least I've attended the UN food system meetings with, we are still lagging behind in terms of implementation. I think the study that was carried out in Kenya, for example, informs directly where the gaps are. I think the adjustment that we want to see is to find out where gaps are in particular countries and what plans can we have for implementation. What are the missing gaps behind all this implementation? What I have studied over time, yes, we have very nice theories, nice structures, explanation and everything. But we are still, Africa as a whole, we are still lacking behind in terms of the implementation. What are the what are the take homes? What are the quick wins that we can at least see to it that each country is implementing as far as food system is concerned? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Very, very crucial point about continuity. What happens when you have a change in government? This is why national strategies where food system is embedded is key. And also the link with other sectors, as you mentioned, climate change, where sometimes food system national convener don't have the control or the impact of this. And this is where the convergence initiative actually is trying to address these gaps. Thank you so much. Madame, please.
Merci de m'accorder la parole. Je suis Armelle Siopatis, directrice de la sécurité alimentaire et de la nutrition au ministère de l'Agriculture et du Développement rural en République centrafricaine. Donc, pour ne pas perdre de temps, je vais vous partager mes propositions en ce qui concerne les aspects qui doivent être changés, ajustés, renforcés pour booster l'efficacité des coordonnateurs nationaux, en tout cas par rapport à mon contexte de la République centrafricaine. Donc, moi, j'ai noté qu'il faut encourager des réformes institutionnelles, car il faut transformer les institutions afin qu'elles-mêmes soient disposées à transformer les systèmes alimentaires, comme l'a souligné M. Ibrahim Mayaki, envoyé spécial pour les systèmes alimentaires auprès de l'Union africaine lors de la réunion du 22 avril à Addis Abeba. De même que le système des Nations Unies a lancé l'état des lieux et le processus de transformation des systèmes alimentaires en 2021 pour susciter une prise de conscience par rapport à l'échéance des objectifs de développement durable. Il pourrait en faire de même pour les réformes institutionnelles qui sont indispensables, ce qui contribuerait à sensibiliser nos politiques. Le coordonnateur national ne doit pas forcément être rattaché au niveau central du ministère de l'Agriculture, car les systèmes alimentaires vont au-delà. Le coordonnateur national peut être aussi le dirigeant d'une agence nationale de sécurité alimentaire ayant une autonomie financière à l'image des agences qui existent au Tchad, comme l'ONASA, au Cap-Vert, au Togo, ce qui résoudrait les problèmes de fonctionnement liés au manque de moyens financiers et matériels. La coordination nationale doit être constituée d'un groupe de travail multisectoriel et doit être formalisée. Cette coordination doit disposer de moyens matériels et financiers pour son bon fonctionnement. En ce qui concerne les 3 facteurs de succès qui pourraient favoriser la convergence sectorielle agriculture, alimentation, climat, moyens d'existence, moi j'ai proposé, premier facteur, une bonne coordination des acteurs intervenant dans le domaine de la sécurité alimentaire pour favoriser une synergie des efforts et des initiatives vers une optimisation des résultats pour une intervention efficace. Pourquoi? Parce que dans le cas de mon pays, il existe beaucoup d'initiatives qui ne sont pas visibles. On découvre des projets qui sont mis en œuvre dont on ne sait pas qui sont les initiateurs ou quelles sont les zones d'intervention. Donc récemment, on a lancé un projet de cartographie de ces acteurs qui interviennent dans le domaine, ce qui pourra donner plus de visibilité. Facteur 2, la formalisation de la coordination nationale dans la composition permet de traiter les questions de convergence sectorielle, étant donné que tous les ministères sectoriels sont représentés dans la coordination nationale. Allô, ok. Et donc le 3e facteur, les réformes institutionnelles et la création d'une agence nationale de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle dotée d'une autonomie financière et qui pourra appuyer la coordination nationale. Donc voilà en quelques points ce que je voulais proposer. Merci.
Okay, thank you so much. Very specific for the 2 questions. Okay, Cameron here.
Good morning to everybody. I'm called Grace Mbo. I'm the convener for Cameroon and also the permanent secretary. Maybe I should stand up. And also the permanent secretary for the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. So as a convener for Cameroon, what we have done so far is that we align the food system in the National Development Strategy for 2020-2030 for the country. But with all what we have been trying to do, we are still faced with some difficulties. So I'm just going to talk on the aspect of the incentive, what is needed for us or for me as a convener to be able to move on with food system. We need some funds so that we can promote interministerial collaboration. We also need funding to facilitate travel to international food system related events and also to promote accountability. And another thing that is important for us is that we also need funding to promote cross references to other priority domains in the key sectoral policy document for the country. Then we need funding to train our youth so that we carry out capacity building for the youth and also for those that the country has designated as focal point for interministerial food system purposes. So if we have all this done, I think as a convener for Cameroon, I can be able to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have how many speakers, just to make sure? Okay, first here, because I would like you just to give priority to national conveners, then in this side here, but very quickly, because we would like, and use Madam, but like to really finish within time. So first, okay.
Can I jump?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Priscilla Wamboi Mwiruri from Kenya. I chair the multi-sectoral technical working group on food systems. Now, in Kenya, the food systems is domiciled in the Ministry of Agriculture, and the national convener is the Cabinet Secretary, Agriculture. He was appointed by the president. And in Kenya, we have a one government approach, whereby when a minister is given a responsibility, then he rallies behind all the other ministers and the principal secretaries. The structure under the national convener, we have an implementation structure for food systems. At the policy level, we have the steering committee, which is chaired by the cabinet secretary, who is the Minister for Agriculture, co-chaired by the Agriculture Committee in the Council of Governors, because we have a devolved structure of government. Then we have, in that steering committee, the RC, the UN Resident Coordinator, and we have the chair of the donor group. Now, the other members of that steering committee are principal secretaries in all the sector ministries. And we have representation from the private sector. We have the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and the Agriculture Board is chaired by the Agriculture Sector Network. So we have a fully representation of all the stakeholders in food systems. Under that, we have the technical working group, which I co-chair with FAO. And we also have under that a secretariat that does the day-to-day running of food systems transformation in Kenya. I think for us, this seems to be working. We have already undertaken one of our biggest assignments. We have 3 tools in Kenya that we are using to support food systems. One of them is the financial flows to food systems, which we have managed to complete and tag about 20 ministries, departments, and agencies. Number 2, we have the stakeholders mapping tool, which is under development, and this will therefore allow us to know who is where and what role they are doing within the national level as well as the county government. The third tool that we are also focusing on under the national convener is the foresight for food. In my view, the national convener is well placed to advance the food system transformation, because the food and nutrition security policy is actually domiciled under the Ministry of Agriculture. And we are currently in the process of reviewing the food and nutrition policy, aligning it to food systems, as well as developing the implementation framework. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing the experience of Kenya.
Sorry, I already have my mic. I'm not going to spend too much on the challenges we very much share with other colleagues. By the way, I'm Abdihaki Mainte. I was recently appointed by the Prime Minister of Somalia to lead the whole food systems and climate change. And on top of that, I'm also the national convener for Somalia. I just want to address the question of what can we bring on the table and what are the levers that we have as a country. I'm sure all of you would by now aware that Somalia is among the very few countries that are impacted heavily and disproportionately the climate, and we have climate crises that are creating a humanitarian disaster in pretty much every year or two. So I don't want to delve too much on that, but what we can do as a government, the two things that we can use as a lever, and this is something that I've been discussing also with the colleagues of other partners. Number one, we're currently working on the National Transformational Plan, which amounts to the National Development Plan. It's a 5-year strategy, and in it we are placing the first time ever in Somalia the food systems and the climate as a main pillar. And we are giving a whole chapter that is dedicated on how Somalia can invest and innovate and develop its food systems. It's very new. I agree with my colleagues from Lesotho. And I'm also very new to the position. So that's number one. Number two, Somalia has been elected to UN Security Council as a non-permanent seat. So we're taking over this position as from this January next year, and it's going to be a 2-year mandate where we will have the authority and the mandate to convene and draft resolutions. And in this, I am specifically tasked to push and champion the question of food system at the UN Security Council next year for the next 2 years. And I'll be convening and engaging with partners and countries and also donors alike to see how we can forge a common purposes and how Somalia, together with Denmark, and by the way, we are working with Denmark also has been elected as a non-permanent seat. So we're working on a global north, global south kind of alliance to promote the whole food system through the climate finance. And this is something that I would like to present to your other national conveners, how we can be of a champion on this through the Security Council as we assume this mandate. This is something that I'm personally open to and willing to listen to you. And part of my mandate is I also sit in the cabinet meetings, so I brief to the Prime Minister and the cabinet this on regularly. And this we are taking something very serious. So anyone who might be very much keen on, already I know the national conveners are blocked in, but other partners, I'm happy to listen how we can move this forward and champion. So this is what we offer as a lever. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and we really welcome Somalia's commitment to this issue. I think your presence in the Security Council and making the link between food security, food system, and food and international security will be really crucial. Okay, Madam here first.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lerato Sello from Botswana. I wish we had interpreters or mics because I missed from my French-speaking colleagues, so we have missed out. So I wish we had known and prepared for that. Thank you. We need to hear what their success stories are. I'm representing the Ministry of Agriculture, and my minister is the convener of the food systems in Botswana. And the Office of the Permanent Secretary is the focal point for SAN. And what I want to share is that for a while, issues of scaling up nutrition has been a little bit slow, but we are taking up the issue now and we are moving, and it is also being placed in the Office of the Permanent Secretary. And we have opportunities which I believe other countries may also have. The existing multi-sectoral committees that are already there can be used to drive the food systems, especially with the key stakeholders. For example, in Botswana, we have a committee called Rural Development Council, which sits with the Ministry of Local Government, and it also deals with food issues. So we as members in that we also drive these issues in there. We also have what is called high-level consultative council in all the ministries where government and the private sector meet and discuss policy issues. And we also have multi-sectoral committees which are made up of the meteorologists, the environments, the water, the energy affairs. All these are very key in issues of food systems. So we discuss these issues in this forum. And I would like to also encourage ourselves not to forget gender mainstreaming in the food systems. Also, not to forget our young people. We know in many countries, I hope it's not only Botswana where we find our farming communities being the aging community. And we are trying by all means to make agriculture attractive to young people, because our mothers and our fathers are going, and otherwise we'll have a country with no agricultural production. Also not forgetting people living with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Botswana. Thanks for sharing this important development.
Merci beaucoup. J'essaie de très bref parce qu'apparemment le temps n'est pas très suffisant. Monsieur Sidati, directeur de la stratégie de croissance accélérée et de prospérité partagée au ministère de l'économie et des finances, qui est le point focal de la nutrition au niveau de notre pays. Au niveau de notre pays, nous avons un conseil de développement national de développement de la nutrition présidé par le Premier ministre, où le secrétariat est assuré par un comité, une plateforme multiforum national qui regroupe l'ensemble des acteurs pour avoir vraiment une approche multisectorielle. Les différents réseaux sont représentés dans cette plateforme et qui se réunit presque tous les mois. Notre ambition, c'est vraiment d'avoir une approche multisectorielle et à ce titre, nous optons vraiment pour la prise en compte de la thématique système dans les différentes stratégies sectorielles, pour la prise en compte dans les différentes stratégies sectorielles. D'une façon générale, nous avons besoin vraiment d'assez de renforcement de capacités pour vraiment sensibiliser les décideurs sur la thématique. Donc, juste après le sommet de New York, il y avait même notre président qui s'est rendu là-bas. Mais vraiment, on a besoin encore de sensibiliser davantage les décideurs et les différents réseaux sur la thématique du système alimentaire. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Monsieur, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is called Howard Mwezi. I'm the alumni of the UN Food Systems Youth Leadership Program, and I work with Young Farmers Champions Network in Uganda. I have had some of the best inputs in the different countries. However, I doubt if we have meaningful youth representation on some of those multi-sectoral committees. Because my appeal is, as we all know, young people are the champions of innovations. I have a feeling if we could have meaningful representation on some of those engagements, young people could accelerate some of these commitments in terms of the food systems transformations, because we cannot talk about food systems transformations without innovations on a drawing board, more so digital solutions. And we all know that the young people in Africa are the big elephant in the house. So to me, if we start planning for the food systems without having the young people on a drawing board, I have a feeling we shall be having a missing gap in the near future, because it means that at a later time in future, we shall be having young people questioning some of these things because they were not on a drawing board. It's just an urge that we could have intensive and, I mean, intentional, meaningful youth representation on some of these interventions, not only youth, but women as well. Then on specifically at my country, Uganda, I have not heard, I'm not quite sure if there is a multi-sectoral committee on food systems. I think we really need to have communication from the, I don't know, the UN food systems to establish one, just like the one I had in Kenya. It's good that I've had one of the senior personnel from my home district, but I don't know what relative there happens in his docket. Initially, I had thought it's the thing of the Ministry of Agriculture. I didn't know it's supposed to be multi-sectoral as such. Otherwise, thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much. And again, the role of youth is very crucial. The Food System Hub is giving this a lot of priority. We had the Youth Leadership Program workshop recently held. Actually, we have some of the people who attended this workshop in the room, and we will continue this to build the capacities of young people to support food system transformation. Okay, so.
Merci. Moi, c'est Haroun Moussa. Je suis conseiller technique au développement rural du président de la République du Tchad. Par ailleurs, donc, coordonnateur national des systèmes alimentaires. En fait, j'ai hérité cette fonction de coordonnateur national par mon prédécesseur, puisque je viens de rejoindre effectivement ce poste-là en février 2024. Et donc, j'ai beaucoup à apprendre justement des collègues. Heureusement que j'ai eu l'occasion par les organisateurs aussi de nous inviter à cette occasion. La problématique de la sécurité alimentaire au Tchad, elle interpelle essentiellement 4 départements ministériels qui sont les piliers pour la mise en œuvre de la feuille de route nationale des systèmes alimentaires. Nous avons élaboré cette feuille de route qui a été adoptée par un décret signé du président de la République, pris en Conseil des ministres, bien sûr, en 2022. Et donc ce ministère, c'est le ministère en charge de l'agriculture, parce que c'est un peu notre spécificité. Nous avons un ministère en charge de l'agriculture, un ministère en charge de l'élevage, le ministère en charge de l'eau et le ministère en charge de l'environnement. Vous voyez, c'est un peu les piliers pour la mise en œuvre de cette feuille de route. Ces ministères, bien sûr, sont chargés, chacun ce qui les concerne, donc de la conception, de la coordination, de la mise en œuvre et du suivi de la politique nationale en la matière. Pour ce qui est donc du dispositif institutionnel pour la mise en œuvre, puisque notre référence était un peu la feuille de route, déjà on a les ministères sectoriels qui sont concernés par le système alimentaire. Donc en plus de ceux que je viens de citer, il y a d'autres ministères comme celui de la santé, pour des questions spécifiques nutrition. Et donc ces décrets confortent simplement les responsabilités, puisque en fait en termes d'attribution, ils ont mandat, chacun donc en ce qui le concerne dans ce domaine-là. Mais on a plutôt prévu mettre en place un comité technique multisectoriel et multi-acteurs, et ça c'est prévu effectivement dans le décret qui approuve justement cette feuille de route. Et ce comité technique est l'instance technique de concertation, de dialogue et de suivi appui à la mise en œuvre du plan d'action. Je voudrais rappeler effectivement qu'on a mis en place un nouveau plan d'action pour la période 2024-2028 pour mieux suivre un peu la progression de tout ce qui est engagement. Et donc ce comité, il est présidé par le secrétaire général du ministère en charge de l'agriculture, puisque sur cette question, effectivement, nous avons conféré un peu le lead au ministère de l'Agriculture pour diverses raisons. Mais le comité, finalement, il regroupe des secrétaires généraux des ministères sectoriels que je viens de citer si haut, mais aussi des responsables des organisations non étatiques, notamment des organisations de producteurs, des jeunes et tout, mais des acteurs de développement également, ainsi que le secteur privé. Le comité s'appuie également sur le niveau déconcentré des comités provinciaux d'action, comme ça, pour mieux effectivement mettre à jour les préoccupations à traiter. Alors, la coordination nationale des systèmes, elle est placée tout à l'heure, je disais, à la présidente de la République, notamment donc confiée au conseiller technique que je suis, qui est entre autres chargé de veiller à la réalisation de la politique du gouvernement en matière de sécurité alimentaire, de suivi et d'évaluation des questions alimentaires et de malnutrition, de suivre les indicateurs de performance de l'élevage et de production agricole, traiter tous les dossiers en provenance des ministères et institutions en charge de l'élevage et du développement agricole. Vous voyez, c'est un peu, c'est pour cette problématique-là qu'on a dû confier cette responsabilité de coordination nationale. Et donc, il est attendu de moi, en tant que coordinateur national, l'impulsion et le soutien politique nécessaires aux acteurs pour l'atteinte des objectifs. Donc, dans la démarche, nous avons envisagé effectivement la réalisation d'un atelier stratégique de mise en œuvre de la feuille de route. Ça, c'est prévu en octobre 2024. Et je saisis l'occasion pour remercier le parce que nous avons donc bénéficié d'un soutien financier pour la réalisation de cette activité. Ce qui nous donnera donc l'occasion de faire un peu l'état du lieu d'avancement, mais à la fin, mettre en place un plan opérationnel basé sur les engagements pris par les différents acteurs. Le défi majeur pour nous, c'est déjà disposer des données sur l'ensemble des acteurs intervenants, intégrant les projets et programmes qu'ils mettent en place à partir de 2022, pour mieux aussi analyser la progression en termes donc de problématiques traitées, Et ce qui donc nous amènera effectivement à réaliser une cartographie des intervenants concernant la mise en œuvre du système de feuille de route. Un défi important pour nous, c'est la mobilisation effective des jeunes. Et là, on a répertorié effectivement toutes les organisations fêtières de jeunes qui travaillent sur différents aspects, notamment à partir donc, du Conseil national des jeunes et la Fédération nationale des jeunes ruraux, avec mon collègue conseiller technique à la présidence en charge de la jeunesse, dans le cadre du programme de leadership des jeunes sur le système alimentaire. L'autre boulot, c'est l'accroissement du financement du secteur agropastoral et la formation professionnelle, même si on a vu la revue des dépenses publiques sur le secteur met en exergue une augmentation substantielle du budget. Bien sûr, c'est une augmentation qui se caractérise parfois par une inconstance. Voilà. Donc, notre rôle essentiel, c'est vraiment le plaidoyer pour le renforcement du financement du secteur agricole. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much, sir. And even if you joined as national convener very recently, but it seems that you and your team are doing a lot of effort in connecting different sectors. That your point about engaging youth is very well taken. Thank you so much. Okay. Any other speakers, or this will be the last one? Okay, this will be the last one.
Good morning. My name is Angela. I'm from Ghana, and I am a food system leader and manager for innovations and partnership with an agricultural technical company called Wami AGRA. I wanted to just touch on a few things. My madam from Cameroon mentioned youth capacity building. Howard is a colleague of mine, and we graduated from the same program. And I wanted to say that the conversation of youth involvement is not necessarily ground zero. There has been a beginning, a change, a movement. And though thousands and millions of youth can be involved, there are a lot of us that have been connected to the space. However, there is still a bridge of where do I go? I am not in parliament, I am not in a ministerial position, but I have talent, I have passion, I have interest. But where do I go? I don't know the national convenors. I don't know who the focal persons I need to get to. So the program by the UN Coordination Hub was very important, and it gave us a lot of exposure and knowledge about system thinking. But after the graduation, I realized that for my country, Ghana, is fairly easy. For Kenya as well, I know they are having progress. But for some of my other colleagues, they've struggled to connect with the focal persons or conveners. They are just not easy to reach, or they don't know the direction to take. So I'm glad that at least 15 conveners are here, and we have a network of youths. For myself, it's easier for me to communicate to my colleague. If it's TikTok I need to use, I can use that to talk about food systems. And the convener has so much on their plate. They have to answer to presidents, they have to answer to big people. But for the youth, we are like brand new Energizer batteries. We have so much to offer, and we are interested. And though there are thousands of us that need to be brought into the space, there are some of us in the space that are there. So to the national conveners and every relevant person here, we are there and we want to be used. And for my other colleagues, other countries that are struggling, we have the networks that can connect them to you, or we just need a way to connect, to be in the conversation, to be part of the process, to be able to contribute our talent and interest. Thank you.
This is why we love youth to be part of our event, because they always speak their mind, even in a critical way, which is actually needed. I think it also, one of the responsibilities for the Food Systems Hub to make sure that this connection happens in an effective way. Yes, as you mentioned, we had this training for many youth around different continents, but connecting them with national conveners, making sure that national conveners also benefit from their expertise, their energy, is something very, very crucial. So thank you so much for all these inputs. We have listened to 15 interventions, and I think this is something really to be appreciated. Thanks for your efforts. All what you explained about what is happening at the national level, facing different crises that sometimes goes beyond your control, like climate change or conflicts, but also working with different structures and different challenges at the national level, how to connect different ministries, how to explain the power of food system transformation is something that we realize is not easy. But I think Africa is really giving good example. The fact that we have the Africa Food System Forum with meeting with national convener is in itself an example of the increasing role of food systems and the increasing appreciation of the role of food systems in supporting the SDGs. This is our ultimate objective. So here, the focus of this event was about what is needed in order for national conveners to fulfill their roles. And we have listened to many interventions, but I think there are three pillars for what you explained in your interventions. One is political commitment. As you explained, Madam, in the beginning, when national convener is located at the higher level, at the level of the president or prime minister or vice president, this makes things much more easier. Because as you said very openly, when it comes from top, things go forward. And this is something that we need to make sure that it happens, that even if the national convener is not located at this office, but the political support is there. And yesterday, when you listen to the opening ceremony, you see Prime Minister of Rwanda and others who are talking about the power of food system. So the transformation, the change in perception is happening at the political level. In different countries in Africa, the establishment of national committees for food systems headed by prime ministers or ministers in itself an enabler for change. So political commitment is number one. Number two is food system national conveners empowerment. And when we say empowerment, it is not only technical empowerment, it is also financial empowerment. Technical empowerment meaning that when you ask national conveners to enact change in different ministries that they don't belong to, like sometimes health or climate change, they need to be empowered. And empowered technically, something that the UN system is working on, but also empowerment by the support of the UN system, by the support of the resident coordinators, by FAO, WFP, IFAD, at the national level to advocate for the synergetic role of food systems. Financial support is important as well. That's why we are working through the SDG fund to provide funding to many national conveners to be able to establish their national structures that are tasked with the transformation of food systems. The third pillar is being inclusive. And here, when you are engaging, when you are establishing your national committees, we need to make sure that they are inclusive. Inclusive of government, but also inclusive of private sector, inclusive of civil society, and youth and women and indigenous people. Every country is different, and the inclusiveness means different meaning in different contexts. But supporting this inclusiveness is very important. In fact, it is one of the 6 action areas of the Secretary General call to action. So 3 pillars: political support, empowerment, and inclusiveness. These are the 3 pillars that the hub will continue to work on to support your efforts. In fact, for Africa, for the Food Systems Hub, it is the only continent where we have a senior advisor who is Martin, who is only tasked with Africa. This is only appointed to support African countries and national convener, and he is the one who is in daily touch with national conveners to react to your requests. Our doors are open, you know all of us, so please reach out when you need anything. We'll make our best to support you. We are now preparing for the next stock-taking moment, and I think Africa will have a lot to show in a very proud way next year in the stock-taking moment. I would like to thank you again, thank AGRA for their contribution to this event, and the event is concluded. Thank you so much.